Hello, hello, everybody. Just getting you in from the waiting room and getting myself organized here because, of course, the auto password did not fill in for Kim's Zoom account there. We had to kind of hack our way in when normally it does. And I look like I've been on holiday to the sun since I last saw you. I got an ultra dark spray tan yesterday, not yesterday, today, like literally 2 hours ago for a photo shoot I'm doing tomorrow. So I'll blend into this chair like camouflage as the call goes on. Let me get myself plugged in. Sorted. So you have me today. Kim is in a very important business meeting just across the way. So I am here to entertain you, the person who's left the company who hasn't really went anywhere. So I'm going to keep you busy with any questions you haven't answered. Fire them in the chat box. I have some questions which are in, where are they? The Ask Kim Constable section of the app that I can dive into as well. But there's not that many, to be honest. So do please hit me with anything that you want. Before we start, congratulations to anybody who completed the Sculpt challenge. I've seen the photos have started to come in of some epic transformations. So absolutely bravo to you. You've worked hard. I think the Sculpt challenge has been super duper fun. Like, I think it's been a tough challenge, obviously, in the workouts. If you followed the meal plan, 1,200 calories is never fun, not at all. So there's always definitely a challenge within that. But I just think the energy's been so good in the app, in both the Facebook community and also in the app. Just really amazing energy of anybody doing the challenge. So thank you for bringing that to the communities when it probably hasn't been that easy to show up each day to do the workouts. And yeah, hopefully you are really pleased that you've got an epic transformation with that. Have a bit of downtime now, have a bit of fun, eat, drink, be merry, and hopefully you will keep going with the other challenge that Kim has just added in. So we've now got the Fierce Challenge, which is in the Sculpt Menopause app. There's been quite a little bit of like what do I do next? What should I do? You could just get stuck into that solely as a workout program, as a workout challenge. That's what the Fierce Challenge is designed as, first and foremost. It is a workout challenge. It could be just a really good way to move from the likes of Sculpt and a shred challenge back to more of a everyday lifestyle kind of thing over the next couple of weeks, still moving your body, still training, keeping the results that you've got from the Sculpt challenge, still feeling really good, eating a little bit more sort of maybe towards like your TDEE, bit more to sort of non-shred calories, but still have something really to focus on. Because many people, after they complete a challenge, they can feel a little bit lost, and that happens when you haven't set a goal. So you need to set a new goal and move forwards with it. Some people want to keep going with the form of a shred. You can just dive straight into the Fierce Challenge, enjoy the new workouts that come with it. There's more 30-minute follow along dumbbell workouts, there's some cardio, and you could continue on with the meal plans that you used in Sculpt or any of the meal plans that are in the Sculpt and Menopause app. It is very, very, very much up to you. I am going to pull up here the community Ask Kim Constable, and I'm going to start jumping into the questions. Do please bring me any questions in the chat box. We'll just go for as long as there is questions. So it might be a short call, it might be a 20, 15-minute call, it might be a 60-minute call. I'll just go as far as I am guided for you when it comes to the questions that you have got. And once again, yeah, I'm very tanned. I got a spray tan earlier. I feel like I need to keep telling anybody who's joined. Got an ultra dark Luso tan spray tan for a photo shoot that I'm doing tomorrow. So I'm just going to keep blending into this chair as the day goes on. It's been a really new experience getting ready for a photo shoot when you're pregnant. It's been it's been nice that I haven't had to diet. It's probably been an enjoyable prep in that I haven't had to diet for this shoot. I've never done that before. But it's been really annoying trying to get clothes. So I'm doing a shoot sort of like for my prenatal fitness company that I'm growing, and I'm just there's like I can fit in, I can just about squeeze into Kim's size 10 gym leggings. That's probably like a size 14, I believe, in the US, or maybe size 16. I can just about get in. I can barely breathe. I'll only be in them for a little time because I don't want to squash the baby, but I can just about like stand still in them and they look okay. But then if I go the size up, which would be like a UK size 12, so I believe that's a US 16 or 18, they'll fit around the stomach, but then they won't fit around the legs. So I don't know, just such so funny trying to dress your body, trying to dress your bump, and then it's trying to work out what way to stand. Like I would have had like fitness poses to do before. Now all these pregnancy poses, everybody kind of stands with their hands on their bump, but I don't want to have too many photos with the hands on the bump. I don't know. So it's a whole thing, but I didn't have to diet. So that's good. Definitely not having to diet is amazing. Questions in the Ask Kim Constable section. Debbie Janos, you have asked, has it been mentioned or will it change in the future about the daily workout streak where it won't reset back to zero if I missed or took a rest day before the end of the week? Allowing the full 7 days to mark my workouts as complete would be great. Yeah, definitely hear you with that when it comes to the streaks in the app. The leaderboard, so both the leaderboard and the streaks in the app, definitely anything like that, it is something it's something that needs a little bit of work. The likes of the leaderboard, the likes of the streaks, those are things that already kind of came with the app, that the app developers had created for us, and they're always kind of developing everything as we go through with it. So we have put in the request. What have we requested? We have requested for development that they do look into rest days in the way that the likes of you could log a rest day. So say that you're doing the 5 day a 5 day program, but you don't want to go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You want to go like Monday, Tuesday, rest Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We have requested that there's ability to log rest days nearly in the way that would help with streaks and help continue that you're still sticking to your program. You're just choosing to take like a break in the middle of it for it. But that's kind of still in the pipeline of development. I'm trying to think what else. What did it come with the leaderboard? I can't remember. There's something else we're looking into. So Debbie, it is a yes that we are looking into developing that part with the rest days and with the streaks. I just don't have a timeline for you when that would be implemented, but we have definitely looked into that with it. With some more people on, yay! Lee Carrie's joined now, Erin's joined, and we've got our Krista and Tanya and Tina. And Beverly B, I think you're on twice. You're trying to rejoin from two different devices, but more the better. Amber has asked, if we are following the suggested macros for weight loss, for me is around 1400 calories, and my goal weight is set to be hit for next summer. Does this mean we should never change our macros for a whole year? What if we want to have a cheat meal once a week like you do in some of your programs? How do we accommodate that? Should I reduce my calories to 1300 a day and give myself a 700 calorie cheat meal once a week? I think Kim might have dived into this last week. Our wonderful coach Rona has commented, but I will give you my 2 cents on this. When it comes to losing body fat and losing body fat over a longer period of time, what I suggest first, so when I was an in-person personal trainer and I had my personal training clients before COVID happened, before I joined the company, what I always would have done was for a set period of time with my clients is that we would have had a set amount of calories, a set macro split according to their goals, and we would have just tried to be really consistent for a set period of time, building the consistency of sticking to that amount of calories, sticking to that amount of macros, and really within sort of 7 days a week. Now, the beauty of creating your own meal plans, trying to not quite if it fits your macros. I haven't really heard about that as much recently. If it fits your macros used to be like this real thing when I was a trainer, and people kind of took to it like it was like the real thing, probably about 10 years ago in the body, not even the bodybuilding industry, in the personal trainer industry. If it fits your macros was kind of this real thing. And it has good ways in the way of you have flexibility in it. You're literally trying to make nutrition decisions. You're trying to create your own meal plans in a way that if it fits your macros, it can be there. And there's definitely benefits from it, but it started to kind of swing as things do. It started to swing from one extreme to the other, where, people were really sort of starting to see it as, well, as long as if I have pizza and donuts and chocolate, if I can get them to fit my macros, then it fits my macros. Like, surely it's okay. It kind of swung from an idea of being like a flexible way of eating, which give people control over their food while fitting in foods that they liked, which can help dieting be easier, to people sort of really completely discounting sort of the micronutrition. They were looking at their macros, but they were discounting like the real kind of micro actually is this pretty like healthy food that kind of goes with it. But we can apply that when we are creating our own meal plans, when we've got just a calorie amount, we've got a macro amount like Amber has of the 1400 calories. And then really from that, you can do whatever you want with it. So there is a beauty in that. But what I always would have done with my personal training clients is for a set period of time, we would have just been really consistent with that calorie amount and that macro amount. We had to be consistent because they hadn't been consistent before. A lot of my clients, the majority of them were women. They were women, even from I was in my early 20s, I was training mainly menopausal women really from 40 to 60 years of age. So there were a lot of sort of yo-yo dieters, crash dieters, women who really felt like, just very like on the wagon and off the wagon. And I think I was good at helping them because I was that kind of person as well. So we were nearly like in good company. Anything that they struggled with, I had struggled with before, and kind of in my 20s still did quite struggle with. So we had to bring like a lot of consistency into it. But the consistency in their nutrition was to achieve their fat loss goals, of course, but it also was just to build, it was to build more than that. The consistency of sticking to a set amount of calories, a set amount of macros, it was to build discipline. It was to build self-trust. It was to build their belief in themselves that they could follow a plan and stick to a plan, because that hadn't happened before. They were on the wagon, off the wagon, either, crash dieting, slashing calories, or binging on calories. And I was a real binge eater in my 20s. And I was very, very much of that mindset, very like all or nothing. So what I had to do with them over a period of time, and again, it's like how long is the time? It just depended on the person. You just had to really kind of take it week by week. But we just had to really build this consistency of this structure of the calories and macros, that they could build that belief in themselves, that they would decide, especially, we all kind of, I know what I'm like on a Monday. Like Monday Laura is very different to like Wednesday Laura, never mind like Saturday Laura. And especially when I was a real emotional eater or binge eater, Monday Laura had the best intention. She was on point. She had her food prepped, she had her bag packed. She was just the perfect fitness person. By the time it came to Wednesday, that was falling off off the path from that. And then by the time it came to the weekend, I would have done a lot of, sort of it came to Friday and it was just like, fuck it, it's Friday. I'll start again on Monday. And all the wheels fell off when it came to the weekend. And a lot of the women that I trained with, this is what they were like, especially, they would eat a certain way Monday to Friday, probably only Friday lunchtime. Come Friday lunchtime from Friday, to Sunday, it just all, what's the saying? Like, all bets are off. Like it was just like a free for all. And I used to be a lot like that, and a lot of the clients I had like that. So for a good period of time, we had to stick to building that belief in themselves, that discipline in themselves, that they had an amount of calories, an amount of macros, that they could eat different foods. There was no good food, there was no bad food, there was nothing off the table. It just was kind of within that structure, within that control of the calories and macros that they had to work with. So for a period of time, it was really it was a no, we didn't save up calories, we didn't bank calories, we didn't go over in calories because they just didn't have the ability to not just let like shit completely hit the fan and it would just end like this weekend binge, because it was just something they'd never done before, like being that consistent with food, being that consistent, especially over the weekend. It's hard over the weekend, like it really is. So it's kind of a real challenge of how to, and that was a challenge for me as a coach, how to help them live life at the weekend, relax a little bit at the weekend, maybe enjoy different foods, but we still just try to stay within the calorie amount. We didn't always stay within the macro split, to be honest. At times that would have fluctuated a little bit, going out for dinner, different foods, like, foods when we do tend to sort of relax a little and we're maybe not really thinking about our bodybuilding goals, they can tend to be sort of lower in protein and higher in carbs. So at the weekends, we'd maybe have a bit more flexibility that the macro split wasn't completely on point, but we're always kind of staying off in the calories. And I would have just done that for like for however long it took, that, to be honest, they were telling me, like they were the ones who were telling me that it was becoming easier to do it. It was becoming more, it was just becoming who they are. They were starting to build that discipline, that trust in themselves, that ability that they could go to a coffee shop, they could go around to their friends, they could live life a bit more at the weekend, which a lot of us want to do, especially if you do work sort of Monday to Friday, or you have more time to spend with friends and family. And some of you don't even get a weekend because maybe the types of jobs and stuff, maybe it's your Monday, Tuesday is like a Saturday, Sunday, whatever way your life is. But they just had to build that real relationship with themselves and relationship with food, with that little bit of structure, that they began to be able to kind of be that little bit more flexible, but things kind of didn't really get too much out of hand with them. Now, after whatever period of time that took, then as they became a more skilled food tracker, because that's another thing, oh my gosh, it's really like counting calories, counting macros, which many of you have done or you're starting to do. Um, there is a real skill to that of consistently doing it and consistently doing it accurately. Like again, if I use myself as an example, the amount of times I would have whipped out my fitness pal and I'd done my calculations of how many calories I needed to eat to be in a calorie deficit, and I was gonna lose this amount of weight by this amount of time. And I would have then, went and done my food shop at the weekend and created these meal plans in my fitness pal that I was going to create for the week. And I would have went through, no, I would have really stressed myself. I would have went through and logged each meal when I went. It's so obvious. It's so silly, but Kim was the one who taught me, like, you can log your food sort of ahead of time nearly, like, so you nearly plan the next day, log the food, and then eat the food as you go. Whereas I was like running about my day trying to eat the food, do the food, cook the food, log the food as I went. And then I felt like a failure at the end of the day if I hadn't like logged a meal or missed a meal. It's always okay. You can log it ahead of time if you want to stay on top of things with it. But what I find is that would happen maybe for like a week, maybe 2 weeks if I was really on point. And then just as the weeks go on, it's like a day is getting missed. It's not getting logged in my fitness pal. A couple of days have went by and I'm like, oh crap. I'm meant to be logging my meals and I'm going back 3 days and trying to remember what I had for breakfast and trying to remember what I had for my snack. And you're kind of just like making it up. And when it comes to the food prep and the meal prep, it went from, maybe there's like this Sunday session where I spent hours prepping all my food to then, I was just like grabbing something from the fuel station, grabbing something from the supermarket on the way home. I was just sort of telling myself I was still, eating to my diet and eating to my meal plan, but I was just really starting to like wing it. So there's a real aspect of tracking nutrition that you have to focus again a period of time when you're really tracking it and you're really sticking to it and you're actually eating what you're eating. And how are you going to know that as well? Progress photos, weekly progress photos. For anybody who has just finished Sculpt, finished any of our challenges, Amber, for you embarking on this journey that you want to, of this goal by next summer, you want to lose this weight and you've been given sort of this calorie and macro amount. How you're going to know that it's working, your plan is working, is to take weekly progress photos. Everybody should be taking weekly progress photos. And I'm sure barely none of you are. Like, comment in the chat box and tell me if you're taking progress photos or not. But I see it again and again where we just, myself included, we avoid taking the photos. And there's some questions I've had recently on my own coaching calls where members have asked sort of about the plan that they've been following and the goal that they have. And a lot of the time, they're just kind of like they're just not quite sure if the plan has been working or should they continue the plan, or the results that they've got just aren't quite, just not quite what they want them to be, like they're just a bit like, "Ah, I think I've kind of got some results. I'm not too sure. Like, and a lot of the time they're asking me like, what will I do next? And what I always come back to is for them to take their photos, and some of them have shared their photos with me, which is brilliant because you can't know what to do next unless you know what you're doing now and if it's working or not. And you can't know what you're doing now, if it's working or not, unless you take any photos. And I would say, just to sidestep to the Sculpt challenge, I've seen some comments of people in the groups who've completed the Sculpt challenge, and there's kind of two camps: people who thought they maybe hadn't seen much change, didn't think they'd seen much changes in their body. They took their photos and they were pleasantly surprised. Or people who, to be honest, the majority of people that's happened with, they're like, oh, I didn't think I'd see much changes, but then I took the photos. I didn't think I'd really stuck to the challenge that much because I had a lot on the weekend, and then I took my photos. Any change is change. You've done something, you've changed your body, and that's definitely a win when it comes to it. But for anybody who did do the Sculpt challenge and took your before photos and took your after photos with the sign, that is your data. Like, that is the story that tells you the progress that you see or you don't see in those photos is the story of what you did do over the past 4 weeks and what you didn't do over the past 4 weeks. But it's good to know, it's better to know, and it's better to see that reality of the situation, of what you did do, what you didn't do, because then that helps you keep going and plan to the next. But what's really common is that we're like la 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 la. We're doing these programs, you're paying a subscription to an app, you're buying a program, you are, by all intensive purposes, doing, saying that you want to change your body, saying that you want to build muscle, saying that you want to lose body fat, or you want to manage your body fat. Like, you're saying that of the money that you're spending money. You've either spent money in the past on, say, extreme menopause body makeover and you're part of these calls, or you're currently spending money, being part of the app and part of our challenges. But then you're not taking the photos. So you're spending money and telling us you want to make these changes, but then you're not actually taking the photos which help you get the reality data and see if you're making those changes. They don't quite add up. You want the thing, but then you don't do the thing, which is taking the photos, which helps you see if it's working or not, see if there's changes. And yes, we want to make ourselves keep our bodies strong. Like at the moment, you know, I'm developing like a prenatal fitness program, and I have been training the whole way through my pregnancy because I want to stay strong, I want to stay fit, but I also want to still look good. And I think that's something like you're not allowed to say that, like when you're pregnant. Like you have to just pretend your whole life is just about the baby, like everything's about the baby. Like you're not allowed to, like it's a real taboo thing to admit that you still want to look good and feel good. And I do, not at the expense of my baby. I would definitely not do that, which is why I've done so much research and studies and updated my prenatal and postnatal qualifications. So I know what I can do, what I need to be careful of. None of the looking good is at the expense of my baby, but I still want that. And I think for most of us here, again, peri to postmenopause, yes, we want to have the strong bones and the strong bodies and the health, through peri to postmenopause and all the, with osteoporosis, osteopenia, sarcopenia, all those things we want to minimize that, prevent that, illnesses. But I think most of us, again, would admit that we want to look good while we're doing it. So again, it's a look that we're chasing, but then we're avoiding taking photos which show us what we look like. So we want to look a certain way, but we're not going to take the photos because we don't want to see the way that we look. It just really doesn't kind of add up. So you really need to get on the bandwagon of the weekly photos. Amber, for you, when you're trying this plan to keep you going, for everybody, you need to get onto it. You have to keep on that reality data so you can see that the plan that you're doing is working or it's not working. And when I take weekly progress photos, it really, excuse me, it really keeps me on track of when I just start to take the piss a bit. So when I just start to like kind of half-ass my training, not really log my food properly, stop meal prepping, I start to kind of do all those little things I know I can kind of get away with, like a little bit of extra peanut butter here, a little bit of extra oats here, like the one takeaway a weekend, which has turned into two takeaways a weekend. I just will start to see it in my photos because my progress will either stall or I'll be starting to put body fat on. And it just helps me wind myself back in again because I definitely sometimes you give me an inch, I'll take a mile, especially when it comes to food. So weekly progress photos just really keeps you on track with that. But for you, Amber, what I'm saying and what I did with my personal training clients in the past is we would have had that really set structured time of sticking to a set amount of calories, a set amount of macros. But as time went on, then as they became experienced trackers and they were tracking consistently and accurately, and they'd built that self-discipline with themselves, that self-worth with themselves, then we did move to a way of where they started to be more flexible with their calories within the week. Either in the way of, say, that you suggested of they ate, like 100 calories less a day to then save those calories up for extra at the weekend. Or to be honest, what I did personally, so say I'm in a really focused muscle building and like fat management stage at the moment. I don't want to lose body fat, but I really, really want to maintain it. And I know this Saturday I am going to go out for a friend's birthday. We're going to go out for dinner. We're going to go out for a couple of drinks. Like I'm going to be going over, sort of at 700, 1,000 calories over food wise. What I would have done is maybe on the likes of a Friday, I would have eaten slightly less. Maybe not the Sunday if you got a hangover. Always have to keep an eye on that. So we'll take the drinks out of it. We'll just keep the food into it because that's just a recipe of disaster for eating when it comes to me. What I would have just done sort of the Friday or the Sunday. So rather than the whole week kind of dropping calories down to save it, bank it for the weekend, I would have maybe eaten slightly less on a Friday. So the day before or the day after, and banked calories that way. But it's all about finding what works for you. Kim would have been, when she kind of applies this, she's very much more, she'll sort of eat less for the whole week to bank for the weekend. What worked for me was eating a little bit less the day before, eating a little bit less the day after. And that to me wasn't kind of hard, because especially if you've kind of had a heavier day of eating, maybe higher carbs foods, you can find just the next day you're not as hungry. So naturally, I would just sort of, if I went out for like a real meal, or like a big kind of day out, I do just find now that I naturally eat a little bit less the next day because I'm not hungry. So it's kind of that banking and saving calories without really trying or really like intending to with it. But it's building first that consistency, that knowing yourself, that ability to do that, which helps that become like a real planned way of eating rather than like a binging way of eating. And when you do it right, it's not binge eating. It's there's a point to it, there's a plan to it, and it's sort of that banking calories to spend calories. And you can kind of think like that. You might be ready to, so I'll give you a very long-winded answer there, Amber. You might be ready to go straight into that, and you're like, yep, I can bank them and spend them. Or if you're pretty new to this, you might need a little bit of a period of time where you stick consistently to that amount of calories over the whole week. Maybe get a little bit more flexibility if your macros at the weekend, that they're not going to be quite the same. And then you can build up that discipline and that self-worth to kind of go for the more of the banking and the spending. But I'm going to leave that one up to you. And maybe you'll have to just try it. You might just have to try it and really, really see when it comes to that. Carrie shared, yes, Wednesday's carry is a glass of wine. Monday carry is hot tea. Yeah. I'm very different from days to come. Thank you for the compliment on my glow. It's a spray tan. I got a Lusotan ultra dark spray tan just at sort of 2 hours ago. So it's developing as we go through the call. And I also got some lymphatic drainage earlier, which was really, really good. Amazing for pregnancy. I find that I'm not really getting, I thought I'd really get fluid retention around my ankles and my feet. Mine's been more like my upper thigh. My upper thighs got really tight at times. Like, oh my gosh, they'll feel like the barrels that are about to burst, like really tight, really sore and really uncomfortable. So lymphatic drainage has been amazing from that, but it was really oily. So I had to kind of rush home, wash the oil off, get the spray tan, and I keep just trying to sort of check there's no spots where the oil has stopped the tan from sticking to. Carrie said, I agree. I eat the same thing every day except Saturday. I loosen up on lunch and dinner. Consistency really is key. Yeah, 100%. Chris is saying the story sounds all too familiar on the food login. Yeah. I always I know myself so well now, and I'm sure you're the same. Like you know all the lies you tell yourself, you know all the ways you let you let yourself off the hook. I'll sometimes really have nearly like outer body experiences now where I kind of watch myself and I watch the stories I tell myself and I'll watch the excuses that I make. And I'll kind of, I'll nearly just be able to like laugh at myself because I'm just like, you're just so full of crap. Like it just, for example, I know I need to train in the morning, like get up, train in the morning, especially when it comes to strength training, because I know if I leave it to later on in the day, I know all the excuses I'm going to tell myself, I've had a really hard day today. Like if you were to train, like that's going to make you really tired. And like you could be so tired that like it's going to make you like not like tomorrow, like it's going to like ruin my next day, not even this day. I'm just going to be so tired today that tomorrow I'm going to be exhausted. And then tomorrow I'm going to be so exhausted that I'm not going to be able to train tomorrow. So I may as well not train today and I'll train tomorrow. Or it's just like, it's always like you've had a really hard day. You should just go home and you just need to rest. You just need to rest, Laura. So I'll just always like come past 3 p.m. I just need to rest. I've had a hard day. And that's always what I'll tell myself. So I need to get up and I need to get into the gym in the morning. I always have found on any of my diets, no matter if they're 4 weeks, I'm not too bad in 4 weeks, but say 6, 8, especially 12-week shreds, see that midpoint, the tracking goes out the window, the measurements, I've went from measuring with my scales to just winging protein powder and oats in. And there always comes a point where my progress starts to stall. I can see I don't start to gain body fat, but just my results really start to slow down. I just get sloppy. And that can be a common thing when we're trying to chase sort of those longer term goals. So you need to keep building that consistency of tracking everything with it. Krista shared, I started using an app called See What You Eat, where you can take pictures of your meals. Oh, that's cool. It helps me in case I forget to log because I don't have to remember what I ate and log later. That's really cool. Oh, awesome. And Erin said you love Luso. I just did it this morning too. Oh, yes. I love Lusotan so much. And it's one of there's three sisters who set it up, Lindsay, Sarah, and Leah. So Leah actually did my spray tan earlier. And I'd said to her, because my first trimester, I felt so sick. And I just I just felt so ill all the time. And it genuinely just sucked the joy, the joy and happiness out of life. I've never really you're nearly quite depressed. Like it just is so debilitating. And one day I just had to have a word with myself because I wasn't doing my weekly tanning. I wasn't really putting any makeup on. I was at that funny stage of pregnancy where like clothes kind of fit me, kind of didn't fit me. You just felt like I was getting fatter, but you just felt like you were just getting like fatter and clothes were digging into me and just felt really, really tight. Wasn't really washing my hair and I wasn't getting like my hair done. And one day I just really had to like give myself a shake and just really like drag myself out of bed, put some fake tan on. I remember really clearly I just had this weekend where I just had to sort myself out because I just didn't feel myself and it was making it feel even worse. So I just had to like slap some Lusotan on, put some makeup on. And I remember going into the city centre in Belfast and just getting like new clothes, like clothes that actually like fit me and they weren't digging into me and like they just felt like comfortable. Oh my gosh. And I've never felt that bad since because I just had to, get a bit of a grip back on like feeling like me again because your body changes so much and you'll get that again, perimenopause, menopause, it's very similar to pregnancy in that way of, your body's changing and you have no control over certain aspects of it. There's definitely certain aspects we can change, but those hormonal changes, the way they can affect your mood, your sleep, your fat storage in your body, both in pregnancy and in menopause, your body on purpose becomes more insulin resistant. So my body right now is storing more fat on purpose to fuel growing the baby and the higher energy needs that I have, peri to post menopause, your body becomes more insulin resistant because your body is on purpose storing more fat to produce more estrogen because estrogen fat is a secondary estrogen production producer, but because the ovaries are starting to wind down, they're not producing as much estrogen. So your body starts to, on purpose, store more energy from your food in fat stores to make more of that estrogen. So it's all just a bit of a hormonal mess. And with that, it's been a new experience for me, looking in the mirror and seeing my body change in ways that I like and ways that I don't like. But feeling like I kind of wasn't involved in that process. I didn't make that happen. Like, it wasn't necessarily the food that I ate or the training that I'm doing. My body's just changing regardless. And there can be quite a feeling like that when it comes to peri and postmenopause. And honestly, putting fake tan on every week has been one of the things that's just helped me feel good. Like kind of definitely don't feel sexy, but it just hasn't helped me not feel as bad when it comes to it. I think we've got one more question here that Kim maybe didn't get to, which I think is yours, Krista, which I'll finish on. Krista's asked, I think Krista's on, or it might be a different Krista. I'm 61, about 10 to 12 pounds from my goal weight. Would you suggest staying on 1200 calories and the 40, 30, 30 macros until I reach it? I enjoy strength training and have been doing it for many years, but sometimes fall off the wagon. And outdoor road cycling, including long rides. Food tends to be the challenge, but it's getting better. I'm good at meal prep and group accountability, which really helps. I was thinking about your question, Krista. I was thinking about how to answer it. And the answer is that you could, but the answer is, can you? So let's do that again. The answer is that you could stay on 1200 calories. I'm guessing you maybe did the Sculpt challenge, but the big question is, can you? So, Krista, I know you're on right now. So the thing you need to really think about of what you do next, you did Sculpt, is can you do that? Can you stick to it? So the answer is you definitely could. But what I would do to do this, so I'll give you sort of the two options with it. If you are still feeling as fired up, as purposeful, as like raring to keep going towards your goal as what you did in Sculpt, then it'd be amazing to keep riding that train. Keep riding that shred train for as long as you can. And what I would do is take the fierce challenge and in your mind make it like the Sculpt challenge. Like I've got my 4 week program and I've got these 4 weeks of 1200 calories and take photos. So if you haven't done any now, I know there's no before and after signs with this, but make it like what the Sculpt challenge was. Take a set of before photos and you're going to have a set of after photos and take weekly photos in between and just really commit. You've said you're good with the meal prep, which is amazing, group accountability. Then I want you like in the challenge community every day within the app, sharing progress, checking in that you've done your workout, really keep yourself accountable for it because while it is a challenge, it's not quite our shred challenge like the likes of the Sculpt, which have prize money and stuff connected to it. So it's not as we're not providing as much outward motivation with it in the way of prize money because it's just that challenge isn't meant to be like that. It's something else Kim has created to give you guys all something to do after a Sculpt and keep things fresh, but it hasn't been designed as one of our prize challenge. It's definitely still a challenge, but there will be the aspect that there is no prize money with it there, but there is the aspect of achieving your goals and chasing with it. But you need to just still have that real commitment that you are going to stick to that 4 week challenge, 4 weeks of 1200 calories, and you're going to go for it like like you did with Sculpt. And if you are like, I'm saying this and you're like, yeah, bring it on, like you're fired up and you're ready to keep going with it, then go for it. 4 weeks, another 4 weeks, stick to those meal plans, stick to the workouts that Kim is going to do. She'll keep you so motivated with it, with the fierce carry sharing that it's tough, and just go for it and see where you get, see how far you can get within 4 weeks. If you're like, I did the Sculpt challenge, I was so tired, and I had like 1200 calories. Oh my God. I was just, I'm just like, I cannot eat another piece of broccoli, another piece of chicken, whether it's seitan or otherwise. Like, oh my gosh, oh, like I could keep eating those 1200 calories to to reach my goal, and like I could maybe try it, but like, oh, like if you're just kind of done, then there is an aspect where it could just be best that you maybe use the macro calculator to calculate some other form of goal, which is maybe like a 1400 calorie amount, so slightly higher amount of food, and but it's more food. It's food that you can stick to, you can eat to that amount of calories and be consistent with that. Whereas you're going to aim for the 1200 calories, but you weren't consistent with it. So I don't know how consistent you were to those 1200 calories over the 4 weeks. That's something really, really to look at. If again you were on point and you were sticking to that meal plan, then keep that energy going. But towards the end it became like a real hard slog, you just actually weren't eating, you were actually eating more than that, then there's always something to be said to moving back to a slightly higher amount of calories, but you are going to stick consistently. So the real moral of the story is what can you be the most consistent with? Can you be the most consistent with those 1,200 calories over the next 4 weeks? And you go for that. If you don't think you could consistently stick to that, then maybe it's use the likes of the macro calculator and calculate something that's a little bit higher, maybe around 1,400 calories. It just gives you a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more room, a little bit more energy. But you know that again, you'd stick consistently to that amount, rather than aiming for 1,200, not eating, overeating, and actually you're eating like 1,700, 1,800, 2,000 because you're just not, you've lost that energy towards that consistency of a meal plan again. So yeah, so Krista, that's very much for you to add. You said my fear was 1,200 being too low and losing muscle or creating a plateau. Losing muscle, losing muscle is very much really only going to happen. Losing muscle when dieting happens when we're not matching. Well, it mainly happens because many women just diet and don't strength train. They don't weight train at all. And that's none of us here. Everybody here is we're focusing on both our nutrition and we're focusing on our muscle building. A lot of women outside of here, they're just focusing on dieting. They're not focusing on any exercise, or they're focusing on dieting and a lot of cardio, but not the strength training, the muscle building to go with that. We've got all that built into the program. Kim's built all that in, that you're focusing on building muscle at the same time. So what builds the muscle keeps the muscle. What builds the muscle builds the muscle. Like you have to strength train, to cause that muscle stimulus, to break down the muscle fibers, to rebuild the muscle fibers, to build the muscle fibers. And whether you're doing one of our gym programs that's built in, the home gym program, or you're doing any of the follow along, Kim's got everything built in the way that, there is the metabolic stress and the exercises that she's got. And then also there's the way that you're training to failure, in that there's minimal rest and you're training with high reps. And something that we've noticed, to be honest, we have noticed, well, you'll have noticed Kim's body, like even Kim's body has really changed over the past really 8 to 12 weeks. She's still muscular, she's still strong. She's lost a lot of body fat, not that she had really like a lot of body fat to lose, but you can she's lean, she's shredded, but still muscular at the same time. And we've seen amazing results within the communities of our members doing the follow along programs, and members who maybe would have been real gym goers before that. They always did our gym programs and maybe never did the follow along programs when I was teaching them. They always chose the gym program. But this is the way Kim's training now solely is. She's not even training the gym anymore, is these follow along programs. But something that I think Kim's thinking, what she's noticed in the transformations that we've seen in the group, is people were training in the gym, but they weren't training hard enough. That was always the thing we struggled with. It's trying to teach women how to train in a gym, but train hard enough in the gym to see changes. Whereas this aspect of the follow along programs, they're motivating. There's a set amount of them. You turn up each week, 5 times a week. People were maybe aiming for this 5-day gym program and they really only went twice a week because the drive somewhere, the to go somewhere, it gets busy, they can't always get on the equipment. There's all these kind of barriers to entry and barriers to consistency. Whereas these follow along programs, you whack your TV on, your laptop on, you just press play, and there's Kim 5 times a week in your living room, in your bedroom, you're in your pajamas, you've just rolled out of bed and you get it done. So there's an aspect where we've seen these really great transformations because the follow along programs are making it easy for women to show up to. And also, Kim's designed them in such a way that they're motivating, they're effective, and women are actually some women are, a theory that we have is that they're actually training harder with these follow along programs. Yes, maybe of lighter weight, but the intensity and energy that they're putting into completing them is more than actually what they were probably doing in the gym. So actually these workouts have turned out to be more effective for them. So a bit of a theory that we've kind of got going on, but we're thinking this is happening. So now it's actually wrap that back around. You've got that built into any of our programs. We're trying to help you build muscle, build muscle while you're dieting, which helps you maintain your muscle and helps you keep with your muscle with it. So it's not too low, but I'd only again kind of aim for, like, say it's too low if you're kind of trying to live off that all the time, like all year round. But if you're going to get stuck in for, say, like another 4 weeks, like that's totally okay. Again, go for it. Maybe you don't last the whole 4 weeks. Maybe it's another 3 weeks. Just go for it and see what happens. But at any time, if you just find that you're becoming very inconsistent, you're finding that you're actually just eating more than those 1,200 calories, then have a look at the macro calculator and maybe just recalculating a more kind of balanced, more lifestyle amount of food, which would help you stick. So it's the you could, but can you? It's that kind of thing, just to really think about it when it comes. So you definitely could, but just for you to think if you could, you yourself could do that over the next 4 weeks. Celeste is asking, how do you keep engaging the pelvic floor vagina smoothie maneuver and still breathe when doing deadlifts or hip thrust type exercises? I think I'm doing it, but my lower back is feeling sore with those movements lately. Oh, this is a good question. I think engaging your pelvic floor and your abdominal muscles and breathing, I really think it's something that you really need to practice while you're not exercising to be able to do it while you're exercising. It's something that I don't think, like, like, I've trained since I was a teenager. I was a gymnast. I then started training in a gym since I was like 18. Probably younger. I think it's about 16. I would have like trained in gyms and stuff. And something I always knew that I did was I would have always held my breath, held my, even now my brain has to really think about it. I think breathe in, abs in, or I need to suck my abs in to breathe in. It's just the words whatever, when my brain logs it, it's like in. So breathe in, breathe out, abs out. Like I would have done that. So anytime I was training, getting instruction in fitness classes, and they told you, like, to take a breath in, I would have just like held my breath, and I'm going purple on the push-up machine. Like I just would have like held my breath a lot. It was always something anybody who was training me would have to remind me to breathe. And it was only when I was 20, I did my Pilates instructor course. And oh my gosh, that's something to really wrap your head around when you're not good at breathing and bracing your abs at the same time, because Pilates is all about, keeping that tight core and tensing the stomach muscles and the pelvic floor while still breathing. So it's like a real learning curve for me. But it finally helped me get it. But to kick that even further, in general, it is what a lot of people struggle with, because you're doing a deadlift, you're doing like a squat, hip thrust. You're having to think about so much. You're thinking about your posture, you're thinking about your technique, you're thinking about doing the exercise, you're thinking about the weight and how heavy the weight is. Then at the same time, you're meant to breathe and you're meant to squeeze. You're meant to get this whole list of things that you're meant to do all at the same time. And it is a lot. It is a lot to think about, and it's a lot to go over. And taking that a step further, now that's what I'm really working on for myself when I'm training while I'm pregnant, but something that I will really need to involve in my prenatal program and also in my postpartum programs, because it is all about creating that, that pressure, that balance, that stability in the center while still breathing at the same time. So I think it actually, what I've really realized is, it is something you nearly, if you struggle with it, it's nearly practicing it while you're not training. So like right now, if I was to think about it, so I'm just sitting here, I'm just going to relax. So just relax on my chair. I'm going to start with engaging my pelvic floor first. So I'm thinking about that. Kim calls it like the vagina smoothie maneuver. It's like you're sucking up a smoothie with a straw, which is like in your vagina. You're like sucking it up. There's different ways you can imagine it. So right now I'm just going to squeeze up on my pelvic floor. You can imagine it's like you're trying to stop the flow of pee, of urine. you can even imagine sort of even further back. It's like you're kind of trying to stop a poo because sometimes when you kind of think that thought process a little further back, it kind of engages the pelvic floor even more. You can imagine it's like you're zipping up a coat, you are riding up an elevator, anything in your mind that kind of envisions that whoop, that lift up. We're trying to draw that up of the pelvic floor muscles. What I would do first, I'd break it down. I would practice, and do it with me now. Let's do it together. Practice tensing your pelvic floor muscles and then relaxing your pelvic floor muscles. And that's a very important thing. If you are someone who does Kegels or in any way is interested in strengthening your pelvic floor, it's very important that we're thinking about tensing and relaxing. Like any exercise we do, there's the concentric movement, the eccentric, we don't just, a chest press, we don't just press and that's it. There's a outward movement and inward movement. Both parts are as important in a Kegel. It's that tense of the pelvic floor muscles, that drawing up, and then that relax of the muscles down. So it's nearly like while I sit here, it's like I'm trying to draw up my pelvic muscles, like I'm trying to stop the flow of urine, stop my pee, and then I kind of relax, like I'm letting it go. And I'll try not to pee myself because that also happens in pregnancy. So it's just getting, first of all, can you get that tense and relax? What do you need to think about to do that? Is it the idea of stopping pee, stopping a poop, zipping up, unzipping, lifting an elevator, going up in an elevator, going down in an elevator, whatever you can think. We're all like squeezing. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to think now about taking a breath in. I'm going to draw up. I'm going to stop that flow of pee. Then I think about at the same time is I'm going to pull my belly button in. So I'm bracing my abs, which is very hard to do these days. So right now, as I sit here and as you look at me, I'm pulling up on my pelvic floor, like I'm trying to stop the flow of pee. I've went from here to here. So I've braced my abs, I've pulled in, and I'm going to put my hands on the stomach. But I'm going to keep breathing. So as I sit here and draw up my pelvic floor, draw my navel in towards my spine, I'm going to think about just breathing into my lungs, but breathing into like the fronts of my lungs. In and out. Breathing, that's not even enough. Breathing into like the backs of my lungs. Like my lungs, like my boobs are two big balloons, and I'm trying to breathe into them. But the whole time, as I breathe into the fronts, the sides, the backs of my lungs, here's all moving, but here's still strong and tense. I've drawn up on that pelvic floor, still stopping that flow of pee. I'm pulling that navel in towards my spine. So there's tension, there's good pressure all around here, but I'm still breathing. It's called a 360 breath, breathing into the fronts, the sides, and the backs of my lungs. The stomach will move like a little bit with it. And then you just kind of relax it all out. So it's it's practicing bracing the pelvic floor, bracing the stomach while still breathing when you're just sitting there. You're not doing anything else. And when you can get that going, then you can add it even more effectively into your exercises because then there's even more to think about. There's the movement, there's the weight, there's a lot more to kind of think about when it comes to it. I would practice that because it can take a little thing. For me, I'm a very visual person. So I nearly envision like I'm going for like a checklist before I perform any exercise. So say I'm going to do a squat. I will look in the mirror and be set up my body. I'll start at my feet, make sure my feet look okay. My hips and knees are aligned where I want them to be. And I need to step a little bit wider now that I'm pregnant to leave room for the bump. I'll get myself under the bar. I'll, get it onto the tops of my traps here, get myself in nice and tight, get comfortable in it. I'll look in the mirror and like kind of like check, 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 check. I'm happy with all my posture. Then I'll walk back with the bar. So like just a free bar on a squat rack. I'll have walked in, I've got it on my back, and I'll kind of walk back and look in the mirror. Again, before I perform the squat, I'll go back through my checklist. Am I happy with my feet, my knees, my hips, where they are, my shoulders? Am I looking balanced with the bar? And I really take my time and make sure that like I've checked all my boxes of my technique to begin with. Then again, before I even start the squat, I do what I just did there with you earlier. I pull up on the pelvic floor as if I'm trying to stop myself from peeing. I draw my navel into my spine. So I'm making like a real, like for now when I'm training, I'm imagining I'm trying to like hug my baby with muscle. Like I'm giving them a hug with muscle as I support them through the exercises. You could imagine like you're zipping up a jacket, tightening a belt, because it is a corset of muscle you're building around your middle. And I'll tighten and tense pelvic floor, abdominal muscles. I'll take a big breath in, a big breath out. So I'm getting that practice that I'm breathing while I'm still squeezing, and then I start my exercise. So it takes me a little bit of time to actually perform an exercise because I go through my posture, I check that I'm bracing pelvic floor and stomach, I check that I'm breathing while I'm bracing, then I perform the exercise. So you might just have to kind of slow it down a little bit and just get kind of break it down, maybe practice a little bit without an exercise and then add into it. Last little thing, doing deadlifts, hip thrusts. I think I'm doing it, but my lower back is feeling sore of those movements lately. Video yourself. Sometimes in deadlifts, people are coming down lower than they need to, and they're bringing it more into their back. And you just have to really think in a deadlift about keeping the hamstrings engaged, keeping the glutes engaged through the movement. When it comes to the likes of a hip thrust, make sure the movement's not sort of like you're kind of doing like this kind of thing, like you're really driving from the hips rather than like a flick flack through the arch backwards and forwards. So it might not just, it could be the technique involving the back rather than particularly with the pelvic floor and the core when it comes to that. But take a video, that can really, really help when it comes to it with it. Okay. All right, everybody. It's been lovely to spend some time with you today. I will say my goodbyes for now, but again, I'll probably see you next week or something at some point, and I'll see you in the groups. Anyways, have an amazing day. Well done for all your success in the Sculpt challenge. If you took part in that, dive into the Fierce challenge, even if it's just to perform it like a workout challenge, just to keep yourself nice and motivated. And yeah, I will see you very, very soon. Have a great week. Bye.